Yay, we're live. I'm so excited. Okay, you guys, I have a special treat for you today. Miss Samantha. There she is. Oh, so exciting. There she is. Hello,
Hi.
darling. It's so
Hi,
nice
how
to
are
see you.
you? You too.
Oh my goodness.
You too.
Okay, so we'll jump right in. And I don't know if you even remember, but I met you at Camp Fit Pro like years and years ago, when you
Oh,
guys were
I'm
doing
sorry.
Bellies Inc. Yeah, well, you guys were doing Bellies Inc. And um, like I was a personal trainer at the time and just wanted to learn more about the whole postnatal experience.
Okay.
And then I found you on Instagram and like reconnected with you from the standpoint of like, I really resonate with what you also, like you and I have the same stance of like diet culture is ridiculous. The whole fitness industry has kind of ruined a lot of people's idea of like what calories are and all that stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I would love to learn more about your story and like how you went from the whole Belly Zinc thing. Like I know you have two kiddos and it
Mm-hmm.
was two, right? You have two
Yeah.
girls.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love to know more about your journey from that standpoint.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, and thank you so much. And I'm sorry. I, I have a lot of people reaching out to me. So I remember you in the Belly Zinc days and all of that. And I feel like, okay. So this is what happens in menopause, people. Now, I do recognize your face, the name, no, and I'm really good at faces. So I really appreciate you reaching out to me and asking me to come on. So, I mean, the very short answer is that, when I was in Belly's Inc. and I was doing pre and postnatal, that was a stage of life that I was in, right? And so now that I am 50, I'm going to be 52 in a few months, and going through the whole lovely adventure and journey of menopause, that is where I am. And I really feel for me, and this is my own personal opinion, but I really do feel like all the other people that I align with who are entrepreneurs get it. Unless you're actually in it, I kind of feel like, not to say that you don't have any business doing it, because there's definitely men who train women and all these other things, but I feel like we have the experience personally, as well as, also professionally, that I can speak from that place. Like, people come to me because they understand that I'm actually in it and I'm doing it. And so nothing is perfect. So, I still have the odd person who reaches out to me and goes, "Oh, I just had a baby and this and that." I'm like, "Great, congratulations," but I'm not interested. As much as actually, as far as interest, I can't wait to be a grandmother. I want grandbabies because my kids are now 17 and almost 21. So it's a completely, you want to talk about teenagers? Well, actually, let's not talk about teenagers. Um, it's a completely different thing, but I can't relate to that area anymore in my life. I mean, there's things I don't forget, like, not sleeping and all the other things, but I really haven't kept my credentials up to date, and I'm really just not interested. And I do have a nice group of people who I do refer to. But you want to talk about, again, teenage hormones, the whole transition of what happens to your body and everything after 40, I'm your gal, right? And I think just because I'm living it and people understand. So I just feel like it was like just a natural transition, right? And
Yeah.
I think more entrepreneurs need to do that and not get so afraid of, okay, people only know me as this. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Because then you're just going to lose interest,
Yeah.
right? Like, what about
Yeah.
you? You said you used to be a personal trainer. So I'm assuming you're not anymore.
Well, I started as a holistic nutritionist. Well, I mean, I started in the pharmaceutical industry, realized that's sick care, got into real healthcare as a holistic nutritionist, but I realized a lot of people just wanted their ass kicked,
Yeah.
So I became a personal trainer thinking, well, fine, I'm going to talk to you while we're warming up
Yeah.
about food, right?
Yeah.
So then, and I realized while training, a lot of it was like mindset, and it really wasn't about getting your butt whooped, you know what I mean? So it was a lot more about the food and the mindset piece. So I kind of, like you said, you kind of get a little like bored with what you're doing, or things change and the things shifted. And I just got a lot more into like fascial stretch, body movement, and yoga and those sorts of things. And I would rather teach a group of yoga, like a group class to yoga students, rather than teaching one person how to squat 8 times a day. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it just got monotonous. So my progression has very much been similar to your journey from the standpoint of like, it just what I was going through with my life. And I also suffered a concussion. So I really couldn't go back to the gym with the lights and the 16-hour days and all that stuff. So it just was a natural life progression for me.
Good for you. Good for you.
But like you, I very much disbelieve in the whole diet culture. I disbelieve in the just do HIIT training, work out 3 hours a day. And like the whole fitness competitor journey is really like a detriment to what the body is supposed to be doing, like you really shouldn't dehydrate yourself and restrict your calories. In my opinion, food should be pleasurable and calories don't really count, because 150 calories of Cool Whip is nowhere near 150 calories of spinach. So let's not talk about calories, right? So when I saw you were posting stuff like that, I was like, yeah, go Sam.
Oh my God. And you know what? Like, okay, so I will also acknowledge that I was that person who was counting 100%. Calories, like measuring, not weighing. I never got to that point because that's when I was like, because I don't even want to do that. So I'm not going to tell anybody to like weigh their food. I actually had a woman reach out to me years ago and she's in her 60s. She still weighs her salad. I was like, pardon? Oh. I was like, what? I was like, so you're basically weighing water. I was like, is that what
oh no.
Well, that's what so-and-so told me to do. Yeah, how's it working for you? Like she has every issue in the world, but that's what somebody told her to do. Anyways, but I was very much diet culture. I was very much body dysmorphia. I was very much weigh yourself. I never was like weigh yourself every day. There's still people saying that, which I can't believe they say that and go to bed with a clear conscience, to be totally honest. Again, my opinion, and I'm very opinionated, so I'm not afraid to share my opinion. But, weighing yourself every week and doing all these things. And it was only in the last few years that even my current clients who started me with that, I pulled away from that. And they're loving it more because I'm taking the pressure off, right? And, why don't we just exercise just because it's good for our body? What kind of a concept is that? Let's just exercise because it's good for us. Let's just eat food because they're actual fuel, right? So when you eat like shit, you feel like shit. You eat well, you feel good. Like, and I actually giggle when I first heard the term intuitive eating. I was like, what? I was like, what is that? I was like, oh, is that eating when you're hungry and stop eating when you're full? But people actually now made a label and they have books about it and stuff like that. And like, this is how effed up the diet industry has done that now we have to put this term on it, hashtag intuitive eating. We're all born to eat and listen to our hunger cues and fullness cues. But when you've got a phone, like we're talking on right now, or you've got computers and everybody's distracted and nobody actually sits down. Hi, Tracy. Nobody actually sits down and enjoys their food because they're eating while they're working, while they're watching TV, while they're doing this, while they're chasing their kids. People don't even know what hunger is anymore. I mean, I'm going now more on what you do, but I mean, I help clients do this. So I've taken all that pressure away of weighing and measuring and calories. And to be honest though, and you probably do the same thing, the only thing, if I do have someone track macros, is I do have women track their protein, or at least, and I just use their hand. I'm like, just make sure, because women don't eat nearly enough protein, at least in my experience. I've never, ever, unless they've worked with personal trainers before, had a woman come to me and says, I eat over 100 grams of protein a day. It just doesn't happen. Right?
I find we're very carb loaded. As a society, I find refined sugars, refined grains, starchy carbs, like all that sort of stuff is just, I don't know. I'm glad the Canadian Food Guide has changed slightly, but I think we were very brand washed and brainwashed into believing that you need, 5 to 7 servings and all this dairy and all these things. And I'm just like, oh God, no. And I'm the nutritionist that will never tell you what to eat, because I don't believe, we spent our whole childhoods wishing we were adults so that no one would tell us what to do. And then we spend our whole adulthood looking for some guru to tell us what to do. And I'm like, you have that guru inside you. You need to listen to your body. I just help you decipher what the messages are, right? Because I went through for pharmaceuticals, so I understand biological pathways and all that stuff, but it's so different rather than masking a symptom, right? If you're going to take a medication to lower your blood pressure, I'd rather know why your blood pressure's high. Yeah. Right? Let's figure that out so that we can, get you drinking more water.
Yes.
That's a big thing where people don't drink enough water. And then, like you said, they don't need enough protein because they're full of carbs, and they really just reach for, like, even, I find some people even like overdo like salad, for instance, where it's like, eat to enjoy it. Don't eat salad because you think you have to, because that takes the pleasure away from your food. And I really do think that like we need to eat to enjoy what we're eating. And that's not to say like eat nothing but Mars bars all day, because your brain tells you that's a good dopamine hit, you know? And,
for sure.
but yeah, it's really the whole body dysmorphia. I went through my whole 20s with like body dysmorphia and like self-hate. And it was all about like, you know, working out as a punishment for what I've eaten, as opposed to a celebration for what my body can do. And now I'm more of like a functional fitness. Like I'd rather, when a guy asks me like, how much do you bench? And I'm like, I don't care. I want to know if you can help me load hay at the farm. Like, if you can't help me load hay, you are useless. And how much you can bench, I don't care. Like
100%. Yeah, 100%. It is important with your food about like salads and stuff like that. Like, do I have to this and that? And I'll give people like general ranges, like try to get 5 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. But taking that stigma away of, you know, punishing myself, you have to earn. And I used to say those words. I said those words, you know.
Me too.
You know, if you want to earn that, you know, like you want to earn that party that you're going to, you're going to have to do an extra bit of cardio and stuff like that. And it was so deeply ingrained. And then the recipient was like, yeah, of course I have to earn it. Right? Because that is how the fitness and the diet industry has brainwashed all of us.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. So when I have women coming, so now that I work with women 40 plus, perimenopause, menopause, all that stuff. And so I talked to a woman yesterday who reached out to me. Was it yesterday or the day before? Anyways, can't remember. See? Menopause. And I was like, what is it that you want? And she goes, I want to go back to working out 5 days a week and this and that. And I was like, why do you want to work 5 days a week? Well, and I was like, okay, well, I can tell you right now that I'm going to tell you not to do that. And if anything, that is the biggest struggle for the clients who I take on, who if anything, if they're not working out 2 to 3 times a week is what I tell people. And then anybody else who's working out more, I'm like, I want you to scale back. I want you to stop doing it. I want you to stop punishing yourself, beating yourself up, because that is what women do. Because when you go through perimenopause and your hormones start to change and you can't manage stress and all these other things, the first intuition is I've just got to work out more. I've got to work out longer, and I need to eat less, because that's what we did in our 20s, and it probably worked in our 20s, right? It screwed us up mentally, but we could. Remember the good old days when you were going to go to a club on Saturday, and so that whole week all you do is have like boiled chicken and salad, and you got into that outfit, right?
Yeah.
You could easily do it. Yeah, try doing that now in your 40s and 50s. It ain't gonna happen, right? And I'm not saying it's fair, but that is the reality, that we have to work with our bodies, not, punish them, like you said, and work against them, so that automatically when you've got someone who's in perimenopause and menopause, they go back to what they used to do before. And I'm like, dude, that was 10 years ago. Like, what makes you think that you're anywhere close, like physiologically, hormonally the same? You're not. And they get really down on it. And it's like, but you know what? That's because nobody's told them. Because again, it's either go hard and go home, because that's what fitness people say, especially here on Instagram. You're all guilty. Whoever's watching it, you do it. I did it. I did it up until just a few years ago. Or your doctor is telling you, suck it up, it's fine, and you'll get over it eventually. And whatever.
It's just your hormones.
Well, no, actually not even that. It's either it's just your hormones or it's not your hormones. It's not your hormones.
You're fine. It's just age, or it's just this. Go here, take this pill.
Right?
Yeah, that drives me crazy.
Oh, it makes me, it's bad enough that, women's health is not, obviously, like, we're at the bottom of the list, but menopause, you are useless in the grant to society. You're dried up. You're no longer sexy. You're like, you literally are dry, right? Everything has dried up. You're no use to us anymore. You're crazy. And so I'm just going to go find someone younger and cuter.
Yeah. Even like, I heard after the age of 35, you're considered like a geriatric pregnancy, even if you try to have a baby. And I was like, I can't believe you're putting those two words together. I'm sorry, what? Like, this is insane. So I really do feel like, I mean, I got out of the medical industry and like what they call healthcare. I very much associate it with sick care. I got out of that because I wanted to know how to be healthy. And you can't be healthy by studying the sick. And you definitely can't be healthy by taking a bunch of chemicals. You really do need to work with the body. And I think that's where, like, I really resonate with what, like, the way you work and what you say and all that stuff on your socials, because it's also, it comes down to what we're being brainwashed, like, on social media. You see all these circus acts and you're like, no, go do some dead bugs and you'll be better off than doing like planks on a Bosu ball and all this crazy nonsense, right? And it really does come down to, like, eat what your body's telling you, because I don't tell people what to eat. I'd rather them understand what their body's asking for. From the standpoint of, like, if I tell you to eat strawberries because I think they're healthy, but you break out into hives every time you eat strawberries, well, that's your body telling you, please don't eat strawberries. You know? So, like, I'm all about, like, getting people to build self-awareness as opposed to just doing what somebody said to do. Because a lot of people, like you and I, have been brand-washed and brainwashed into believing a certain thing that's actually not true. It's really, a lot of those people are doing a disservice as opposed to actually helping somebody. And what worked in your 20s wasn't really working, right? Like, we're actually putting more stress on the body, and you might actually be losing muscle as opposed to losing fat. You know what I mean? So I found a lot of women, kind of like what you said about protein, a lot of women are afraid of strength training because they don't want to get puffy or they don't want to put on muscle because they think they're going to suddenly look like a bodybuilder. I'm like, do you have any idea how hard those people work for that? Like, if you work out 2 to 3 days a week, I promise you won't look like that.
The number of times I'm like, okay, number one, you don't have enough testosterone to do that. Number two, do you have any idea how heavy you'd have to lift and how often and how much food you'd have to eat? Like, people don't think it's this weird concept, right? And I totally, oh God, you said something as you were talking, about, you know, listening to your body and, you know, not telling people what to do. Now, so one thing I used to say a lot was, you know, people love being told what to do to a certain extent. And just hear me out for a second. I remember when my kids were younger, the last thing I wanted to do after going throughout the whole day was to now come home and figure out what to make for dinner. I didn't want to think. Please tell me, just so I can follow something. Give me some, and I still do believe that to a certain degree. Now, I don't tell people specifically what to eat. I mean, I supply recipes and food ideas, and I said, but they're simply a guide, right? The thing is though, because we've created these people, you and I are both guilty of it, but generally just society, you know, Canada's food guide, diet culture, all of these things, all of these multi-level marketings, all of that, is that people now don't want to have to do the work. So, and I'm seeing women who are now like middle-aged going, well, you know, I really don't want to jump the gun. I'm like, jump the gun? You just told me that you have high blood pressure, diabetes, like you have no libido. Like, what are you waiting? Are you literally waiting to go into the hospital? What's jumping the gun? But again, we have been brainwashed because if they can do everything else on their own, why can't I should be able to figure this out? And it's not working because you've told me you've done every diet. You've done keto, paleo, intermittent fasting. I don't know, like the list goes on and on. You've reached out to me. And now that I'm telling you, you're actually going to have to do the work. I'm not going to give you a diet. We're going to do this, and it's going to be a process. It's going to be a journey. And people are just like, oh,
shit. Yeah.
Right? And then I had someone say to me, you know, how long do you think this is going to take? And I'm like, well, how many years do you have for the rest of your life? And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, I am merely giving you a stepping stone to guide you, right? And I will be there to support you. But you're actually going to have to work on this for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Oh, well, don't you work on your relationship, like with your partner? Don't you work like in your job? Don't you work as being a parent? Why do you not focus some energy and effort on yourself every day? So you don't feel like you want to jump in front of a train and whatever, and you're not all miserable. But for me, I find it, I'm flabbergasted that people are so, when you tell me actually you're going to have to do work, there's no pill. I'm not going to give you shakes. Like, you know, and they're still it because they've been so cookie cutter is the way to go. Again, because you're looking at 20 something influencers who most of them have no freaking, they're only on there because they've got great bodies and big tits, and they have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah, they're 22-year-olds old. They've never been injured. They've never had to deal with weight loss. Like, all that stuff drives me crazy. And I've always said the hardest part about my job is convincing someone they've been lied to for their whole lives, you know, like that's the hardest part. And it's not about like not giving somebody the guidance, right? Obviously I'm guiding them, but I'd rather give, so people come to me for meal plans all the time. They associate a holistic nutritionist with, oh, so you're going to give me a meal plan. And I'm like, no, I'm going to teach you how to make a menu so that you can choose something that's going to work with your day, work with your lifestyle, and it's going to be part of a lifestyle. It's never going to be a 3-week fad diet and then you're, you know, count 1,200 calories and then you're done. Like, that's absurd. That's insane. I would rather make it a lifestyle and something that you can therefore enjoy for the rest of your life rather than be restrictive. And we're humans. Like, as soon as you give somebody even a weight loss goal, I've always seen as soon as somebody sets a weight loss goal, they go into hoarder mode because they don't want to lose anything else. So it's like telling a little kid, don't push that button.
Yeah.
Well, now what do they want to do?
Ding, ding, ding.
I want to push the button. So if you tell a woman she can't have cake, what do you think about? Nothing but cake.
Yes.
So like, I hate even the word cheat meals. I would rather, so like in the fitness industry, when I worked in the gym, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I call them celebration.
Yes. Okay. So I can't stand it when somebody says like, oh, I'm going to have cheesecake for my cheat meal. I'm allergic to dairy. If I had cheesecake as a cheat meal, I would literally want to die. Like, it would crush me. So I would rather, instead of cheat myself, I would rather treat myself and eat something. Like, I made a whole cookbook that was dairy-free. Like, it's all desserts. And it's all dairy-free, grain-free, sugar-free, but it's delicious. Like, I've tricked pastry chefs with the stuff that I can make. And I don't think that dessert's off the table. No. You know, some people come to me, they're like, oh, so I got to give up dessert. And I'm like, no, I spent a year eating nothing but cake because I was doing a recipe guide, you know? Like, and I didn't change weight. I didn't gain weight. I didn't lose. Like, I'm still healthy because it was real food. And that's where I feel like we kind of do that misconception. We go into like the diet food or the low fat, non-fat chemical shitstorm stuff. And honestly, people are often confused when I say like diet and exercise don't matter as much as the top 3 priorities. And like, you can go weeks without food. I know people who've gone a lifetime without exercise, but if you don't sleep well, if you don't drink water, if you're not sleeping well, and if you're not breathing properly, no amount of HIIT training is going to help you. No amount of, like, I could make the most nutritionally sound meal for you every single day of the week for 3 meals a day. And if you're not drinking water, you can't digest it. Yeah. So what's the point? You know, and then if you're also stressed out while you're eating, you're not digesting. So that's where I've always dialed it back.
You're not digesting either.
And then your hormones are all out of whack. You can't, like, your metabolism is all out, like, you're going to gain weight because you're going to reach for the sugar and the stimulants because you're so tired, and nobody wants to be a cranky bitch all day. So, like, those 3 things.
I know, but I get it. And I say that every time. Like, well, Sam, what I did, you need to go to sleep before midnight.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I want to unwind.
No.
You know what the best way to unwind? Lie down in bed and turn off the lights.
Yeah.
You're not missing anything. There's nothing to miss. No. You're nothing. You're missing nothing.
We got FOMO though, right? We got that fear of missing out of, like, as soon as the kids go to bed, they're like, yes, it's my time. And I'm like, you know what else is good? The morning.
Exactly. And then you won't be crabby, and then you'll be happy, and you'll have energy because you actually slept.
Yeah.
You'll drink water and not just coffee all day because you'll be awake and you'll have energy. You won't be dehydrated. Like, I know, like, honestly, like, you're preaching to the choir, and this is why we're having this chat, because we're basically the same person.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's so difficult with, you know, and even myself, I still every once in a while kind of feel like, oh, you know, I kind of get pulled into something. I'm like, Samantha, stop it. Like, what are you doing?
Keep it simple.
For so long. Keep it simple. We overcomplicate it.
Yes.
The diet industry has overcomplicated. Like I said before about intuitive eating. Intuitive eating is literally, am I hungry? I'm actually hungry. I'm going to go eat. I'm not going to scarf food down my throat. I'm going to sit down. I'm not going to have the TV on. I'm going to chew my food. I'm going to enjoy it. And then when I get that kind of, oh, I think I'm full, I'm going to stop eating.
Yeah. And the only way to do that is to not overwhelm yourself with refined sugars, because sugar is more addictive than cocaine. So I really don't understand when somebody's like, oh, you're such, that person's a drug addict. I'm like, says you with the Coke in your hand and the cookies, what?
Yes. And like you were
so there's so much.
Dessert. Well, what you were saying about dessert too, like I wasn't raised with dessert. So if you do have a sweet tooth, I do try to give people alternatives like dates and like just different things. And but I'll say to people though, because it's this idea is like if they work with somebody like you or me, automatically, just because again the way they've been treated in the past is you're gonna tell me I can't have any of this now, right? And they automatically go into deprivation mode. And so even though I'm a big fan, and this is part of like the old school part of me, I really do believe in the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, eat really well, eat whole foods as best as you can, right? Not everybody has the same accessibility and resources. And then 20% of the time, enjoy without shame, judgment, any of that. But then people really kind of get all like, ooh, and then I'll talk to them and they'll be like, I had a piece of cake and I know I shouldn't have. Said who? I told you 20% of the time. Yeah, I know.
There's literally no one policing this.
But because they've been programmed that if they do something off plan, it's bad, right?
Bad, yeah.
This is why I'm telling you, because deprivation never works. And even when I'm giving you permission, I'm telling you, please have cake, please have wine. Don't have it every night, okay? Yeah. But really enjoy it when you're having your celebration meal, whatever. Enjoy it. And what's interesting too is when my clients who do get it, they have it. They're like, yeah, I really wanted this thing. They're like, I didn't really enjoy it. And I'm like, see? Because your palate changes and then you understand. So I'll say to people, this is when you start getting really picky about when you are going to have that 20%. It's got to be good.
Worth it too.
It can't be some crappy chocolate bar that literally tastes like wax. Because now you've had like real dark chocolate. You've had these things. It's changed. You have an appreciation for it, right? So, but I have them figure. I'm like, you can have whatever you want. I don't care. Right? But then they come back to me and go, oh, I didn't like it. And my stomach wasn't happy. I'm like, see, you're listening now. Pay attention. It's not because I said don't do this and don't do that. Because I'm the same with you. You do that automatically. People go into deprivation mode and then they just they want it all and they start freaking out. And all they think about is the one thing Sam told me I can't have. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if I told you not to think of a pink elephant, what's the first thing that pops in your head is a pink elephant. 100%. And then just like, oh my God, I would rather help somebody build self-awareness so that I've had so many clients come to me and like, they kind of cave and they're like, oh, I got that donut. But Megan, you ruined donuts for me. They don't even make me feel good. I got a headache. I felt like garbage. And I'm like, like you ruined donuts for yourself because you actually were nourished. And that's what I find in this country. We are so overfed, but we're still undernourished. So a lot of people who think they overeat, you're not overeating. Your body's still looking for nutrients. You're just not eating nutrient-dense foods. Yes. And that's where I come back to like refined carbohydrates, refined grains, like refined sugars are stripping the body of minerals. And then we're drinking water from plastic bottles, which is like usually distilled or some sort of purified water, which is actually pulling more minerals from your body. Mm-hmm. So like if you're not replacing those things, of course your body's going to be like, oh shit, we're like really low on magnesium. What can I have? And then your brain goes, chocolate's good. Yeah. But then you reach for like a Kit Kat or something as opposed to real quality. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'd rather teach people what's in their food, where their food comes from, because I walked into what really got me on the path of like teach people how to grow their own food and where their food comes from was because about 10 years ago, I was walking into Loblaws and this little girl, I couldn't even turn around because I was like, I had this flare up of anger. This little girl said, she saw a sign in the back of like a Honda Accord and it said Farmers Feed Cities. And she goes, what do we need farmers for when we have grocery stores? So I was immediately angry and then I was so sad
Yeah.
Because if these kids think that their bag of baby carrots come from the back of Loblaws, I have work to do. You know what I mean? So I was immediately like, I feel like if I have the privilege to know, I have the duty to act.
100%. Good for
So
you.
that's where I was like, I'm going on a mission. Like, that was it. I was like, I'm going into schools. I'm teaching kids where their food comes from. I want to teach people how to grow their own food, all that stuff, because I do not want one generation to die off and then nobody knows, that everybody thinks that their food comes from the grocery store. Like, it's really sad to me when you hear an adult say, oh, I don't eat eggs from chickens. Mine comes from Sobeys.
What are you talking about?
Like, yes. So it's stuff like this that people actually believe, and I'm thinking, oh my God, your eggs actually come from chickens. Like, this is really sad. We need to know where our food comes from. And in my opinion, I don't know who said it. Somebody said it at one point, and I was like, yes. So we're treated by a medical industry that doesn't consider our food as part of our healthcare, and yet we're fed by an industry. We're fed by an industry that doesn't give a shit about our health. They care about shelf life.
Of course they do.
So they're both in bed with each other, and it's great business, but it's not helping us. Like, we're the guinea pigs for the food industry and the medical industry. So that's where I feel like my passions from being a pharmaceutical chemist and being a holistic nutritionist really marry really well, because I'm like, I want to help you get off meds and eat real food so that you're not calling me in the grocery store going, I don't know what cereal to get. It's like, walk away. I'd rather you eat the box the cereal came in than the actual cereal itself. You're probably going to get more minerals from the cardboard than you are the actual cereal. Like, it's so gross. So my clients end up loving to hate me because they walk out of the grocery store going, shit, yeah, you're right, there's no food in there. I'm like, no, got to go to the farmer's market, you got to grow it yourself. Like, and when people
going to farmers markets,
so amazing. I've learned so much about like kohlrabi and other like vegetables, because I was like, what is this? You know, like, there's things where I've even got to learn about it. And then people don't understand when they tell me they hate vegetables, and I'm like, if I shopped at the grocery store, I probably hate vegetables too. Because it doesn't taste good. Like, lettuce, when you grow your own, or you shop at somewhere that actually cut it yesterday, and that flavor blows you away.
Yes, it's
like, I've told, like, I've made dinner for people where they're like, oh, I hate broccoli, and they've ended up gone for seconds because of the way I made it. And I really don't like it when somebody's like, oh, I hate broccoli because their mother used to boil it. Well, have you ever had roasted broccoli in the oven? Like, you know what I mean? Try it different ways.
I went to this restaurant yesterday called The Good Son. Where are you? Were you in Toronto?
I was in Toronto, now I'm in Kingston.
Okay. This girlfriend I went to, she's also a holistic nutritionist. So whenever she says, let's go for lunch, I know she's always going to bring me to this amazing place. So this place, Good Son. And she goes, the Brussels sprouts are awesome. So I'm like, I'm all about Brussels sprouts. But when I was a little girl, and my mom used to boil them and then put them
They taste like feet.
with butter and salt. I used to call them little balls of barf. That's what I used to call them. So then it was about 15 years ago, I want to say, when I had my other company where I used to do in-home personal training, when it was pre and postnatal. And one of my clients was a vegetarian. She goes, I made these great Brussels sprouts. I was like, ah! And she's like, no, you've got to try it. And I was like, what are these? And it was simple. It was like, cut them, toss them in olive oil and a little bit of balsamic, salt and pepper, and just put them cut face down and put them in the oven. And so I started making them for my kids, and I would put them in their lunches, and they're like, oh my God, Mommy, these are so amazing. But yes, it's like, we've got to get, the first thing is you need to be open to trying something new and trusting the process, right? But yeah, I really feel like our parents killed it for us, a lot of us. But also, they didn't know either. Right?
No.
Everything was boiled. The water was like the color that should have been in the vegetables. Right?
Yes.
Like, we should have just drank the water. We've been a lot better.
Yes. 100%.
In the water. But yeah, I totally, and now I used to, like, basically the only vegetables I ate were carrots if they were raw, not cooked, broccoli and corn and cucumber. Like, that was basically my palate. Now, any vegetable on the planet, because I know if you cook it properly, that shit's gonna taste good, right? It's
my mother grew up in the Ottawa Valley, and now I know why I basically grew up on corn, tomatoes, and cucumber because, like, I went to a farmer's market there. Only thing available is corn, carrots, cucumber, tomatoes, and cucumber. I was like, this is why we grew up on that stuff. And she wouldn't eat anything else. She was very like, ew, it's so gross. I'm like, looking back, I'm like, wow, I thought my mom cooked from scratch, but she didn't really cook. Like, she just, we stuck with the same thing. So you really do have to be, that's why I love the farmer's market, because it almost forces you to eat seasonally.
Yes.
And it forces you to see other things where you're like, what is that? Yes. Like, I had no idea there was purple carrots and white carrots. And you know what I mean? Like, so many colors. And when I say taste the rainbow, I don't mean Skittles, people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there are so many colors of vegetables. Like, I had no idea there was orange cauliflower and purple cauliflower. Like, what?
I know. I actually had
so crazy.
Last year, she reached out to me right before Christmas, and she's a vegan, and she's a farmer out in Newfoundland. No, not Newfoundland. Sorry, PEI. And she lives 100% off her farm.
Yeah.
And so the only thing with her was a challenge to get her to eat more protein. And so we were able to do that. But it's amazing. And she's got an amazing Instagram handle. I'll share it with you after. And it's everything. Everything is 12 months a year. Everything is from her farm that she lives off. And she's got four kids or something. I just find that incredible. Amazing. I
think more people need to do that. Like, for food security, food sustainability, like, we really do need to get back to growing our own food. And we need to get back to the basics of, like, knowing where our food comes from, eating real food, you know, not this pre-processed, shelf-stable nonsense, especially if it's slapped with a diet label. If it says diet, fat-free, low-fat, anything, just think chemical shitstorm and walk away. Because we are so fat deficient. So the first two things that I look at when people come to me with their diet is how much water you drink and how much good fats are you getting. Because if your good fats aren't high enough, your hormones are messed. Like, they're just a complete nonsense, and it's just a mess of crazy. And then if you're not drinking enough water, and you can't digest anything, you're going to be sluggish, you're going to be constipated, you're going to have brain fog, you're going to have all these things, because water is literally a biological necessity for pretty much every function in the body. And it so boggles my brain.
Yeah, I know.
How many, like, doctors don't even talk to people about it. Like, I've had clients where they come to me and they're like, I have 5 different specialists. And I'm like, how much water are you drinking? And within 3 weeks, their blood work is definitely better. They're off medications. Like, they've done all these things. And they're like, Megan, you saved my life. I'm off these medications. My blood work is better. None of the doctors have been able to help me. And I'm like, because they can't patent water. They don't have a pharmaceutical rep coming in going, hey, how much water are they drinking? Like,
or water pills or something. You know what I mean? Like, I know there are water pills, but you know what I mean? Like, if there was a way that they could market that, they would. Yeah. I know, it's crazy.
It's so sad because they're doing a disservice. I really wish doctors thought more about how many patients can I get off medication rather than they're already writing you a prescription within 3 words coming out of your mouth, you know? And I can't even count how many times I was told, oh, just go back on the pill, you'll be fine. I'm sorry, what? Like, I went into for blood work because with my doctor, you had to be dying for him to actually, like, you couldn't just be like, I'd like to know what my blood work says, you know, like, I'd like a panel, please. He'd be like, no, that's not worth it. So I actually told him at one point I was trying to conceive. He came back into the room with a 5-year IUD. And basically tried to pitch me a 5-year contraceptive. And I'm like, dude, I just told you I wanted blood work because I was trying to conceive. Like, what are you doing? You're clearly not listening to my needs and wants.
Yes.
Like, so my mission in life is to redefine healthcare because we need to get away from sick care, you know? And then people like you who are actually helping promote the better side of health as opposed to the diet culture and the crappy, I feel like the fitness industry has brainwashed a lot of us into believing that you need to be the whole fitness competitor type, you know, you need to look like that all day, every day. And it's like, that's not even sustainable for them.
Yes.
So, and they work out like 6 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like, it's crazy. Nobody has time for that shit.
And I'm not interested. As soon as you say that, I'm like, no, sorry. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a big thing, and especially with you know, women going through perimenopause and menopause. What I often hear is, I went to my doctor to get my hormones tested, and they won't do it. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean they won't do it? Oh, thank you, Indy. I'm I'm like, what are you talking about? They won't do it. I mean, they're your healthcare provider. Yeah, they
Yeah.
won't. And I'm like, okay, well, it's time to get a new doctor.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
and I mean, I did get a new doctor very recently, like over COVID, and she tried to kind of pitch me and say, well, you know, this is the way. And I said, I really appreciate it, but this is how I do it.
Yeah.
And I was very polite, and it was on a Zoom call, but she knew that there was no way I was going to back down. And
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing, especially for women, is they have to be a very staunch advocate for their health.
Yeah. We have to give women a better voice about this,
yes,
because they
yes.
need to have like a stronger position when they
yes.
go in and be like, no, this is my body and I get to decide what to do with it.
Yes, yes. Don't let doctors tell you what you can and cannot do.
No.
Writing out a requisition. But the thing is so I was having lunch with my naturopath last week, or no, it was a week. Anyways, I don't know when it was. Yeah, it was last week. And I love her, and I send all my clients to her to get their hormones done. And I always say to people, I said, it's not cheap, it's expensive, but at least you're gonna know what you're working with, as opposed to like walking around in this haze going, I feel like I'm going crazy, because that is a very common message that we hear, that menopause, you're gonna feel like you're crazy, and again, you're useless and all this other stuff. And but at least you'll know what you're working with, so then you can create a plan, right? But you go to your doctor, and most of them don't even want to test your hormones, and then if they do, because they have such a long, wide range, they might say, you're normal. And so, again, fluffing off your symptoms as if you're wasting their time.
Yeah.
But we all know what's normal for one person isn't normal for another. And we know how our bodies are. And if your body is different, or if your brain is different, you know something is off, right? I say, get your hormones tested, but you have to be an advocate, and you've got to stand up for yourself. And you have to get this stuff done, because it really is about quality of life. Like this is the first generation. We're the first generation that we could live up to 100 years. So at 50, if you're feeling like shit and you don't do something, you really want to spend the rest of your 50 years feeling like a bag of crap? Because it's not going to get better. Absolutely. Yeah. And no diets, shakes, fasting, detox in the world is going to help you. It's not going to help you. But this is an opportunity now for you to actually do the work. But I almost feel like, I don't want to say almost, I do feel like that so many women, by the time they reach midlife, they're so tired that they feel like they have nothing left. Yeah. Right? And this is where
a lot of doctors just kind of fluff it off of like, oh, you're just getting older, you're fine, your knees are supposed to hurt. No, they're not. Like, no. That is, just because it's average doesn't mean it's normal.
Absolutely. Well, it's just like leaking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you and Kim have like single-handedly given me so many cues, like the whole sip your milkshake thing. Like I remember all the, and like literally going back to my clients and telling them stuff, and they're like, where did that come from? I'm like, Sam, you got to go follow like Sam and Kim, and like, oh my God, that whole thing. Like, I didn't have babies at the time either. Like, I didn't have any kids. So people often looked at me like in your courses being like, how many kids do you have? And I'm like, I'm just here because I want to help my clients. Like, I don't have any, like, I'm not here for personal reasons. I'm here for them. But it was because this isn't talked about. Pelvic floor physiotherapists are not really heavily chatted about. Like, I know one of my friends has had her fourth baby and nobody sent her to a pelvic floor physio. Like, it just boggles my brain that you're supposed to have a human life come out of your vagina and then you're just supposed to get up and start walking around again. Like, we need to advocate for more women's health, because like up until like almost 100 years ago, like we weren't considered people. Yes. Like, I'm sorry, what? This is insane. So I swear, if like reincarnation is a real thing, I was definitely burned at the stake, right? Like I was definitely one of those women that was burned at the stake, 100%. So like, I am all about helping women, one, realize that just because it's average doesn't make it normal. Yeah. And two, you need to understand your body enough so that when somebody recommends something that's absolutely absurd, like it's just age, or go back on the pill, you'll be fine, or take this medication because your blood pressure's off. No, there's something that you need to, like, I used to suffer with migraines, and instead of going to the doctor being like, give me a pill, I always went to the doctor and be like, what am I doing to get migraines? And they didn't want to tell me. They were like, shh, don't worry about it. Here, just take this pill. And I was like, no, thank you.
No, though, but they didn't know.
No, that's the thing. And I swear, it must be like medical school 101. Like, you're not allowed to say, I don't know. because like that's what's really unfortunate.
Or let me refer you to somebody who would know,
Yeah.
that is not my area of specialty, right?
That drives me crazy.
Like when I was having lunch with my naturopath, and I was talking about the frustration that a lot of my clients have if they go to their doctor and they're not getting the support, or they're either she said the most common things that menopausal women are prescribed is the pill or an antidepressant.
Yeah, I was going to say antidepressants are super crazy.
And again, this woman I was talking to yesterday was like, she goes, the number of times my doctor has said, I'm going to give you a prescription for antidepressants. She goes, and then I finally yelled at her. I said, I'm not depressed. Like, leave me alone. Like, the doctors don't listen. But the thing is, my naturopath, she goes, but they're not taught this. She goes, whereas me, this is like my naturopath talking, she goes, I have like 800 different options that I can do to help. But because doctors and pharmaceuticals are like this, they are only taught a Band-Aid solution. They're not taught, well, where did this, where is the sadness coming from? And we know, or at least I know this, that it's very common once you're going through those hormonal transitions of perimenopause and menopause to have higher incidences of depression and sadness and anxiety and heart palpitations. But those are all hormonally related. You don't just say, well, that's what it is, though. We're just going to put you on medication. No. Let's look at your hormones and see how we can manage your hormones first.
Yeah.
And if you still need medication on top of that, okay, that's something we can discuss. But you're not addressing the issue. You're putting a Band-Aid on it. It's just like leaking, right? People think it's normal to leak. You've had babies. It's okay if I pee my pants a little bit when I'm jumping and coughing and sneezing. No, it's not. No. And as you get older, it just gets older. So sure, you can have a bladder lift. But guess what? 45% of those fail within the first 5 years. And it becomes this vicious cycle. But again, that is a Band-Aid. It's not going to the root cause of why are you leaking? See a pelvic floor physio. But doctors don't think prevention.
No, right? They're literally not taught prevention. Yeah.
It is sick here.
And they won't even tell you, like, if you're syndrome X or something and you're pre-diabetic, they won't even tell you. They'll, like, wait till you're actually diabetic. And then they're like, oh, I can give you insulin. And it's like, oh, had you have warned me, that my vitamin D was low, or had you have warned me that my glucose was high, or had you have warned me that any of these things, it's insane how they don't even care about prevention. Like, I was told by my doctor, I think I was around 28 years old, and he just looked at me and goes, you'll be walking with a cane before you're 35.
Why?
I'm sorry, what? I was like, no. So that's when I went to people like you and Kevin Darby and Paul Check. And like, I went to the people who actually understood prevention and real healthcare. I was like, I'm going to learn how not to fall into that, because I know so many people that just kind of believe their doctor and they're like, well, he said I was going to be walking with a cane, so I guess I might as well cane shopping. Like, no, you don't have to believe their prognosis. If you want to get better, you can absolutely get better.
And the thing is what really frustrates me I do believe we do need the medical system, our traditional medical system, to a certain degree. I do believe that there's a time and place for medication, a time and place for antibiotics, all those other things. However, when they say stuff like that, they take all your power away. And that's the big issue I had with pregnant women. So you have a pregnant woman and you see their OB, and the OB would be like, you're not going to be able to give birth to that baby vaginally. That baby's too big. I'm going to schedule for a C-section. And I'm like, wait a second. Just wait. I literally have a very good friend of mine who was just visiting in Halifax last week. This is how wide she is. She is a bean pole. When she was pregnant and you turn around, she had this ball and you'd think she would fall over. She was so thin. Both of her kids born at home over 10 pounds. Okay?
The human body is miraculous.
And there are some pelvises where babies won't go in. But don't automatically make that distinction from an ultrasound, and because you immediately take the mother's power away. Now she's scared. She's fearful. She's not even thinking, well, maybe we could just try first. Maybe I will get a doula. Maybe, it's not even, so when doctors say stuff like this to anybody who is having a difficult time speaking up for themselves, being an advocate, you automatically take their power away. And then they're like, okay, well, then I guess I'm just destined for a life of like poor health and in pain, and oh well, because my doctor said so.
Yeah. So that was one of the main reasons I really resonate with you and like stuck with you for so many years too. Like, I've followed your journey because I was like, yeah, this girl's finally onto something. Like, yes, this is amazing, because you guys were such an advocate for pregnancy and women's health in that standpoint. But then you went on to the whole menopause thing, and one of your videos, you It was the one where you were like going to go and shake somebody's hand and then you were like, oh, no, because so many people pretend that they know, right? So many people in this industry kind of jump on a bandwagon and then they promote weight loss or they promote calorie counting and they don't really know the science behind it or they don't really have any education around this. And that's, I think, the hardest part about my job is so many people like lump me into, oh, you're a holistic nutritionist. I used to work with a holistic nutritionist. I'm like, not like me, you didn't. You know what I mean? Yes. Like, I guarantee you that person gave you a meal plan. I guarantee you that person told you to count calories. Or I guarantee that person told you to squeeze lemon juice in your water. Like, please don't. I actually have the science background. I'm a nerd for the science stuff. And that's what I loved about you is you were very much like, one, you've been through it, right? So you're not just into the whole menopause thing because it's like a bandwagon you could jump on. Is you actually did it. Like, this is something you've been through and you've actually.
Going through it. I'm still going through it.
Yeah.
Menopause isn't just like, you go, like
it's not like a week and you're done.
There's a particular guy that I was thinking about when I did that reel that you're talking about. I've known him for a long time. He's big, huge, beefy, like he's like almost like a bodybuilder, and his wife, they had business together. And, he talks about like, all he talks about is fat loss and, being disciplined and working hard enough. It's very much that
calories in, calories out.
That I used to say, and macros and all that stuff. And all of a sudden he changes his profile to say, he used to say, I've helped hundreds of women. Now it's, I've helped hundreds of menopausal women. He probably has no idea what menopause even is. Because I know his wife hasn't gone through it yet, but she might be in perimenopause at this point. But he has no idea. But he slaps on menopause, and that's what set me off. But I was like, are you for real? And so
crazy.
And he shows all kinds of before and afters on his page. And he's got lots of women who are middle aged who've dropped all kinds of weight. And all I want to say is I want to reach back out to them and a year from now, after they've started working with them, and say, okay, how are you doing now?
Yeah. There's a guy in Kingston who helps people like within 3 months, they look so good. And then like 6 months later, they're coming to me being like, can you help me balance my hormones? Because he really messed me up. And I'm like, he needs to stop.
Yeah.
So they might be doing a small service, but then in the long run, they're really like messing people up, which is, it's not okay.
Yeah. You don't know what you don't know. And if you're not willing to, so I guess that's why we're here to kind of pick up the pieces. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I don't want to, I know we could probably keep chatting forever and ever.
Yeah.
And I would love to even maybe like pick this conversation up another day and like keep talking, because I think that you and I have so much in common. I know that you're in the whole like menopause area, and I'm like almost 40. So I've got that, like just that kind of a few little years behind, but we definitely have similar messages. We definitely want to like end this whole diet culture thing and really just women advocacy, right? Like just advocate for women's health and real health, not sick care. Because you don't need medication, you don't need, and like you said, like there's a time and a place for the Western medical system. Like if I was shot or stabbed, I definitely want surgery. I don't want homeopathy. You know what I mean? There's definitely a time and a place for that stuff. But I just feel like they're not working together with the rest of us nearly enough, if at all. So I love what you're doing. Please keep doing it. I'm definitely cheerleading you on for sure.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This was a great conversation, and I'd love to do it again.
Yes. Awesome. I'm so excited. We'll definitely plan that. Have a great day, darling.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Bye.